Hey everybody, I'm Tony with Creative Gems, and today I'm going to teach you how to make a cuff bracelet. Hey everybody, so the tools that we're going to be using today, of course, are going to be our stamping jig, our stamp set, and our bracelet bender, which we have available on our website. I use a piece of sandpaper, belt sander sandpaper. This is a ceramic sandpaper. You can get it at any hardware store. I use ceramic because we are sanding down metal and they just tend to last a lot longer. We're also going to be using our ball peen hammer because I'm going to do some texturizing on the edge of the bracelet because I think it looks cooler. So with that being said, we're also going to be using our stamping block. All right, well, let's get started. So first things first, at our website, we sell pre-rounded corners. Some people don't offer the pre-round corners, so that's why I'm going to teach you how to round your own corners and take the edges off of these bracelets. Because you don't want a sharp edge when you're selling these to the public. First thing, I'm going to use my belt sanding paper right here, and I'm just going to take the edge and just swipe it a couple times just to round that corner off. So here's once, and as I'm doing it, I'm rolling the bracelet around, so it gives it a nice round edge. So just a few times, sands it down really nice, and then you're going to do all four edges. And then I'm gonna flip it over and do the other sides. Nice round edge. All right, so now that we have our nice round edge, I always like to feel mine, make sure there's no burrs or anything on it. Now I'm gonna do the inside edge and the other side. So there's two edges on these. We get ours laser cut, so the edge isn't too bad. I know some other manufacturers have a very extremely sharp edge. So keep that in mind when you're making your bracelet. So I'm just gonna take the flat edge, I'm gonna hold my sandpaper here, and I'm just gonna run this down just a few times. And as I'm doing it, I'm moving down the bracelet to get the entire bracelet here. So I'm gonna make sure that I don't have any sharp edges, and the way I'm gonna do that is I'm gonna run both my edges down this piece of sandpaper here. Just a few times usually does it because you're just taking the edge off. And after 3 or 4 times, just you rub it with your finger here, make sure there's no rough edge. That seems pretty good to me. I'm gonna flip it over and I'm gonna do the other edge. Pretty good for me. So do this side, and now I have a nice rounded smooth edge bracelet to start the engraving process. So from here I'm going to get my tools ready. So I'm going to be using my stamping jig, my 2-pound sledge, and my letters. Now from here we are ready to start stamping. The first thing you want to do is gauge the length of your cuff bracelet. Usually women are between 5 and 6 inches long. 6 inches is pretty good. If they're have a larger wrist, go with a 7-inch. And you can find on the website there's different lengths for you. If you get just a generic 6-inch and you need to cut it down, don't be afraid to use a pair of tin snips and just cut however much you need off of the bracelet. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna peel off my protective layer here. I'm particularly gonna brush mine. Just like I said, I don't really like a mirror finish. So I'm gonna take my sanding sponge and I'm gonna put it on my workspace area here. And all I'm gonna do is just brush it with the sanding sponge. Gives it a nice brushed finish. That helps in the future against scratching. Just makes the product look better for longer. But that's up to you. It's your own artistic kind of talent that you're gonna put towards your jewelry. All right, now I have a nice brush finish. So from here, I'm gonna mark my middle point. That gives me my, where to start my letters to make sure everything's even on both sides of the bracelet. So this particular bracelet's 6 inches long. So at the 3-inch mark, I'm gonna make a little line here. So you can see I got my little line. So that's my middle point. And that's where I start stamping my letters and working out from there to make sure everything is equal on each side. All right, so I'm gonna grab my sound deadening rubber pad, my stamping jig, and my letters. So the name I'm gonna be doing today is gonna be Anthony. It's a nice round name so I can find my middle point, which is gonna be the H, and then work my way out from the H. So first thing that I'm gonna do is grab my H, I'm gonna put it in, and because I'm gonna put a date underneath the name, I'm gonna put it towards the top of the bracelet, and I'm gonna put it right on the mark that I had made when I marked my middle with the ruler. Okay, so I'm just put in my A, stamp my A. You know, the tricky thing about cuffs is getting your letters very level across the cuff, making sure everything fits really nice. A little trick that I've learned is I use a piece of tape. I got a little piece of tape right here. Obviously, the thicker the tape is, the better. There's a product out there called Stamp Straight Tape, which you can buy, but you can just use regular tape. So I put the tape in, and that's gonna give me my straight line across to ensure that my letters stay straight. So how you're gonna use this is when you go to put your letter in, so now I did the A and T, I'm gonna go on the other side of the name and finish the O and Y. So my O goes in, and you just feel the tape is gonna stop the letter. It's very subtle, but it helps you line everything up very, very well until you get good enough to keep everything straight on your own. I'm gonna put in my N. I'm gonna find a little tape edge right there. And my Y. And I'm checking on both sides, make sure everything lines up really well. I'm gonna hit my Y. All right, so now that Anthony's done, so what I'm gonna do from here is remove my tape. And then I'm gonna start the date. So the date, typically I write everything down and then it's easier to count and find your middle point. If you have an even set of numbers like Sarah with no H, what you're gonna do is find the middle point in between the SA and the RA. So the first A is gonna go on the left side of your mark, and then the R is gonna go on the right side of your mark. And that's how you're gonna make sure Sarah is gonna be the middle point of your bracelet. So right now I'm gonna do 12, 29, 86. So what's nice about dates is they're very symmetrical. So obviously the 29 is gonna be my middle point. So right in between the 2 and the 9 is where the line should be. So I'm gonna start with my 2. And I'm gonna put the 2 on the left side of my middle mark. Hit my 2, and then I'm gonna put my 9 on the other side of the mark. I'm gonna check both sides, make sure everything's pretty level. I like the spacing. Got there. Then for the middle point, you can pick if you want to do a dot, an asterisk, a slash, whatever you want, depending on what your stamps provide. So mine particularly have a little asterisk. My asterisk. And like I said before, if you're not perfect, you know, it's okay, because you're not a computer. So at the end of the day, everything is made by hand, and people like that handmade look. So don't worry about being absolutely perfect. So now I'm going to do my 12, set my 1, and then I'm going to do my 8 and my 6 on the other side. 8, and now the 6 here. Okay, everything looks pretty good, pretty level. So from here is what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little texturizing of the edge just to make it look a little bit cooler. But then again, that's up to you and what your customer would like. So from here, I'm going to use my rubber sound deadening pad, and I'm going to use my texture block, and I'm going to use my ball peen hammer, and I'm just going to hit the edges on the hard steel part. I'm just going to work it around. Careful of my fingers. All right, so that makes a nice texture, just kind of makes it look a little bit cooler. And then from here, I'm gonna go ahead and paint it. So I'll use my paint pen, and I'm gonna cover the letters in the paint. Let it dry for a couple seconds. And I'm gonna wipe it off. And as I'm wiping, I'm pushing the paint down into the bracelet, into the letters. Okay, and then from here, I'm gonna use my bracelet bender. It's a great, simple tool that we use to get the cuff shape look in a cuff bracelet. So I'm gonna put it in this little slot that we put in there for you, and I'm gonna hold it with my thumb here. And then I'm gonna grab the very edge of it and push until it's straight here. And then I'm gonna flip it around and I'm gonna do the other side. And then from here, I'm gonna grab these two ends and I'm gonna push them in just a little bit and just bend it out like that. So you can see how I created that shape of a cuff bracelet. So from there, I'm gonna polish it up. And there you have it, a nice stainless steel cuff, handmade, personalized just for your customer. Remember, we have everything down below for you to make this cuff. If you have any questions or comments or anything at all, don't hesitate to call or email us. And remember, big things have small beginnings.